So the first news item that we have on the docket is the special rapporteur, David Johnston, who we know is conflict of interest riddled person responsible and appointed by the Justin Trudeau Liberals, by Justin Trudeau himself, a close-knit family friend, who's been tasked to investigate allegations of foreign interference, and primarily from the Chinese Communist Party, who himself has pretty close ties to China.
Oops.
Who would have thought that Trudeau would appoint someone so riddled with conflicts of interest to investigate himself. But we have a little video here to share with you of this special rapporteur and what he had to say in a committee meeting, I think just earlier today.
Public inquiries on the Public Inquiries Act are very difficult tools to use for something whose job is to shed light on situations, particularly situations of negligent responsibility and so on, because they are led by lawyers with cross-examination. They have difficulty getting at information that is classified, can't do that in public, are very expensive, are very time-consuming, and often do not result in providing the light. What we have hoped to do, of course, in the 5 remaining months of our mandate is to do exactly that, to have public hearings on matters that are not part of the classified information. And I think we may recall an earlier inquiry was the MacDonald Commission that led into the creation of the CSIS Act to take over the responsibilities for foreign interference from the RCMP. That commission was 5 years in its work to completion.
Madame la Présidente,
Madam Chair, I'm rather blown away there when we see that independent public inquiry can be costly. What is the price tag on democracy? What is the value of democracy? We're here. We've got two parties that are neck and neck in the polls where certain ridings can decide on the colour of the government. And now I'm being told that it can be costly to shed light on this because people, of course, agree upon the fact that the only way in which we can shed light on this situation is by holding an independent public inquiry. Yes, it can take time, but we can live for a long time in the darkness if we don't do anything. And that's not a better approach. So when Mr. Johnston, full respect, of course, for Mr. Johnston, but when he says to me that there are certain elements that are classified that we cannot bring out into the daylight, would that be worse where we had 3 secret services involved in the Aurora inquiry that were actually involved in this inquiry? So why would it be worse this time compared to what we had with the Aurora case inquiry?
You know, Tamara, first of all, I love how these liberals, and that's what David Johnston is, I love how they play the fiscal conservative card when it comes to costs, when it helps their cause. For example, when Blackface said back in 2016, we're going to pay Omar Khadr $10.5 million, because you know what, to fight this out in the courts, that's going to be in the tens of millions. Suddenly this government that spends in a way that would make a drunken sailor blush, suddenly he's worried about the nickels and dimes. So we give this murderous Islamist terrorist a nice 8-figure payday. Unbelievable. And then we have David Johnston saying, well, it's going to take a long time. It's a little costly. Well, first of all, yeah, it's going to be costly and going to take a long time because you know what? Our democracy is at stake here. Mm-hmm. And you mentioned in the introduction, you know, one of the reasons to doubt this gentleman is the conflict of interest. He is a close Trudeau family friend. Blackface should never have asked him to be the special rapporteur. And once asked, he should have said, Mr. Prime Minister, with all due respect, due to even the semblance of a conflict of interest, I've got to turn this down. But that, what he delivered in his role as special rapporteur was a complete whitewash. And secondly, he obviously did not take very seriously the likes of other MPs, opposition MPs, including the former Conservative leader, Erin O'Toole, having their campaigns interfered with. Thirdly, David Johnston, he might be many things. He is not an expert in foreign affairs nor foreign interference. He's not qualified for this role. I could go on, links to the Trudeau Foundation, the fact that his daughters went to universities in China. This guy stinks. And if I hear one more time from mainstream media the phrase, whose reputation is beyond reproach, such as Andrew Coyne, the most boring columnist in Canada working for the Globe and Mail, calling out Pierre Poilievre for personal attacks on Mr. Johnston. Yeah, why is that, Andrew? Is that because I believe it's your cousin gave birth to Pierre Elliott Trudeau's love child? So you're kind of like blood related to the blackface regime yourself? Give me a break. What do you say, Tamara?
Yeah, I mean, the conflicts of interest with this individual are just glaring. And what I'd like to point out is a really succinct, well, it's not quite succinct, it's very lengthy, but a tweet by Andrew Hayes. And he points out, how many questions does he list here? There's 21 questions he would love to pose to this special rapporteur. And it's all about his connections to China, including things like his 3 children that went to various Chinese institutions, universities, and whether or not they received grants or funding or special acknowledgement. I'm not going to go into and read this entire tweet because it is quite long, but there are 21 separate questions here that highlight the various ways in which David Johnston is intertwined with Beijing and, I would assume, the Chinese Communist Party or the People's Republic of China. And that is obviously a glaring concern as he has been tasked with investigating allegations of foreign interference. And then there's also the point here about money. And he's, I guess, trying all of a sudden to be fiscally responsible as a Liberal. And we know that they're traditionally not fiscally responsible. But David Johnston is being paid on a part-time basis. This is an article that comes from CTV about 2 months ago in April. And it states here that he is being paid on a part-time basis from between March 15th and December 12th of this year. This is just under the heading part-time and what costs will be covered, just a little bit more down in the article. If we could keep scrolling. It states that his per diem pay, so per day pay, is within the range of $1,400 to $1,600 per day for his crucial role as special rapporteur. And I wonder how that would compare if we were to do a cost comparison to doing a full public inquiry and contrast it with the amount of time and money wasted that went to Rapporteur Johnston's crucial engagement.
Yeah, really. I mean, why doesn't, by the way, you called him Rapporteur Johnston. He's a special rapporteur.
I forgot the special
denotion.
He's
not some garden variety rapporteur. He's not some off-the-shelf rapporteur. This guy is, tailor-made. You're right. And if he's so concerned about costs, why doesn't he just do his work for minimum wage? I know he's...
Or volunteer.
Yeah. How about that?
He's so special.
Oh, no. We're not that concerned about fiscal responsibility. Not a chance. But we do have another clip. It's David Johnston wringing his hands as he whines about the attacks on his, quote, integrity and independence, end quote. You know what, Mr. Johnston? Your integrity and independence... They've already sailed away. Those ships are gone. They ain't coming back. We've seen your true colors. But let's listen to the great special rapporteur in his own whiny words.
Before I conclude, I think it important that I acknowledge the motion passed last week in the House of Commons. I have deep respect for the House of Commons and for its right to express an opinion on my work. I have heard clearly the disagreement with my recommendations not to call a public inquiry, as well as allegations about my integrity and my independence. These allegations are, put simply, false. and the decision to repeat them does not make them true. The issue of foreign interference deserves serious and robust debate. I will continue to invite disagreement on my recommendations, but will not be deterred from completing my work. I would respectfully remind this committee and all Canadians that I have not simply asked you to take me at my word. Experts and parliamentarians with the necessary security clearance will be able to review not only my work, but also the detailed intelligence on which it's based. Should NSICOP, NSIRA, and opposition leaders disagree with my conclusions, I have asked them to say so publicly, which they are very much permitted to do.
Unbelievable. I mean, Tamara, what part of conflict of interest does this revered special rapporteur not get? He goes back several decades with the Trudeau family, skiing vacations, surfing safaris, close family friend. I'm sure at one point, David Johnston was even changing the diapers of Justin Trudeau. And hey, maybe in a few years, Justin Trudeau can return the favor to Mr. Johnston. This is outrageous that this guy is still passing himself off as a paragon of integrity and independence.
The craziest part about what he said there is that they're continuing to evade democracy, right? A motion passed in the House of Commons. That's our democracy at work. That is the votes that are our democratic process literally in process, happening in real time. And Johnston is evading democracy alongside Justin Trudeau, who chooses not to move forward with a full public inquiry, just as they have been accused of doing by Chinese interference in our democracy. So the evasion of democracy and the democratic process continues by these two individuals who are supposed to be investigating themselves, essentially.
That's a clip from something we call Rebel News Daily. It's our daily live stream hosted by my friend David Menzies, but the show also includes a rotating cast of hosts and special guests, including me. It's a great way for us to talk about the news of the day as the news is happening in an unscripted fashion, and it's an awesome way for you to interact with us as well. We stream every weekday, 1 p.m. Eastern, 11 a.m. Mountain, wherever you find Rebel News. See you there.